Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Yo.
And we are here because we weren't a part of Crowdstrike, so we're able to record this
Yay.
and make everything forward.
Mac users unite.
Yay.
Mac users. That's so funny. The Windows guy over here still on Windows stuff. Hey, I wasn't affected,
That's
and
true. You
I was
also
doing
not
other
affected.
things when Xbox went down. So,
Well, there you go.
see, I went outside and touched grass. How's that?
Ooh, scary.
Hey, speaking of CrowdStrike and things, let's let's talk about that, shall we? Because
Yeah.
see, on the docket here, we usually say that events for technology and things. Well, this was quite the event,
It's
listener.
pretty unplanned, but
Yeah, listener, this event. So we'll back it up a little bit, just in case CrowdStrike. You're like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? You probably heard that Microsoft was having some problems and some issues this past little bit this week. I think I'm going to pass this over to Caleb because he probably has a little bit more on how to connect this better than I could to make it make sense of what happened.
all right, listener, here's the sequence of events. We're
Yes.
gonna break this down like we're in the third act of a spy movie. So early Friday morning, at like 1 a.m. Eastern time or something like that, a company called Crowdstrike pushed an update for their Falcon cybersecurity software. This is a piece of software that exists on, like, I don't know if you're a part of corporate America, listener, but if you are, and you have not already noticed this, go open up your laptop, if it's a Windows laptop, and just take a look and see if you can find something on there called Crowdstrike Falcon, because odds are very, very high that
Yes.
you have it. So this is a piece of software used for cybersecurity protection in a lot of corporate settings around the world, right? Like, this is not just a local thing or a thing used in a specific industry. This is everywhere. It's all over the place on Windows 10, Windows 11 systems, everywhere. This update that CrowdStrike pushed contained a bad sys file that caused Windows machines to blue screen and reboot over and over and over again,
Mhm.
which is not good. That's not what you want your computers to be doing. It's not very helpful, difficult to accomplish anything. So a few hours later, they did push an update to it that fixed this, right? That fixed the bad file. However, it is a little hard for automatic updates to download and install when your computer never actually boots up far enough to, connect to the internet or anything like that. So it was a problem. It was a big problem. This
Mhm.
problem affected pretty much every industry that you could possibly imagine. Obvious signs for the average consumer would have been stuff like, your transit hub terminals not working, your airlines getting grounded and stuff like that because nobody at the airport could use their computers. Stuff like your hospital canceling your surgery for that day because their entire computer system was gone.
Yeah.
Right? Major things affecting Starbucks. All of Starbucks' point of sale systems were toast because they were Windows powered and weren't working. If you went to a place that had a point of sale system that was powered by dedicated non-Windows software or an iPad, then you were fine. But anything that used a Windows-based point-of-sale system was not going to be able to take payments or do anything of that sort. So yes, it was kind of a big deal. Worth noting, as I mentioned sort of flippantly at the beginning, Mac OS not affected, Linux not affected, which means the vast majority of the underpinnings of all of these servers that power the internet and stuff like that were not affected. This didn't take down servers by and large. There are Windows-powered servers out there, and presumably those were also affected. But if you have a Linux-based server that has Crowdstrike Falcon on it, because there is Linux support from this or for this software, but it didn't affect the Linux version, so those servers were all still up. The internet still worked. It was just people's ability to actually access it and do things on the Windows computers that they use to do their jobs and do work. That did not work at all.
Yeah.
So, initial reports, kind of the angry mobs, blamed Microsoft because this was, you look around, you're all like, this Mac is still working. This Android device is still working. This Linux server is still working, but this Windows computer has crapped the bed. Clearly, this is a Microsoft issue. It wasn't. Okay? CrowdStrike Falcon pushed the update. It only affected Windows, but it was not Microsoft that did it. Okay? So that's the first thing to get out there. The second thing to get out there is that the initial steps for how to address this from CrowdStrike were to have an IT person sit down at the computer that was affected, reboot it into safe mode on Windows, and then delete a specific .sys file from the CrowdStrike Falcon installation, and that would solve the problem. Unfortunately, that means that you have to have an IT person sit down in front of every single one of literally millions of computers that were affected by this. That's not gonna work super well, especially for mid-sized corporations based out of the United States, have hundreds of employees in offices in Texas, and their entire IT department is in India because it's outsourced.
Yeah.
Which is totally a thing.
Well, even my company, so the place that I work, it was affected by this. I work graveyard shift, and so we were in the middle of working, and all of a sudden the computers that we use show up. They're all blue screens of death, basically. Like, what the heck? Luckily, it didn't really affect how we were working, so we were able to keep going. But we have one IT guy on site in our location, and probably, I'd say at least at a minimum 50 computers, probably closer to 75 or so. And
yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine how he felt when he woke up and saw the news and be like, oh, crap.
Yep.
I mean, some of us were able to get our computers working without having to do much, but the vast majority of them had to do this workaround, and it was probably not fun.
Initial reports of the outage were quick to blame something like cybersecurity attacks, and this was some kind of a digital terrorism or something like that perpetrated by Russia or whatever, who incidentally were not affected by this because CrowdStrike is a US based company that falls under the sanctions that have been levied by the United States government against Russia since their invasion of Ukraine, and as a result, CrowdStrike cannot be installed on any Russian-owned Windows computers, and they have switched over to a different cybersecurity platform offered up by Kaspersky Labs, which is a Russian company. And so, yeah, Russia wasn't affected by this, which is just like, oh. So, yeah, it looked a little bit like maybe this might be a cyber attack kind of thing, but no, it was just poor quality control on the part of CrowdStrike. And initially looked a lot more serious than it ended up being. Generally speaking, this problem can now be resolved without having to have an IT person sit down. It can, in fact, sort of fix itself for the most part, because CrowdStrike did push a fixed version of the update. And as long as you can get the computer that is affected into safe mode in Windows while still having network connectivity, then it will pull that update, fix the problem, and on your next reboot, it should work. Which, as far as I can tell, I was not at work on Friday. I don't work Saturday or Sunday. And when I went in this morning, it's Monday as of recording, everything was fine. And I think that may have been what happened to my computer, because my computer does in fact have Crowdstrike Falcon installed on it at work. And the indication from our IT department was that your first thing should be to try and restart it a bunch of times, because that will automatically kick Windows 10 and I believe Windows 11 into safe mode just automatically, right? And once it restarts in safe mode, it's still connected to the network, then it will pull the update automatically, and then the next reboot, you should be good to go. So that's kind of where things ended up, right? Generally speaking, we're moving on. Life goes on. We're going to get past. We're getting through this together, listener.
Yes.
Stand unified, except for Russia. Apparently, they didn't have to worry about it at all. So, what are the takeaways from this? Like, there's two things about this, actually, that I kind of love. The first is it sort of reminds me of that time in 2016 that a single open source web developer got annoyed with the repo that was hosting his development packages, his open source development packages, and deleted them. And he had one package in there called, I had to look this up, LeftPad, which was 11 lines of JavaScript code. Did like very little. It was just this tiny thing, but it broke JavaScript development like internet wide. Everybody that was using JavaScript was like, woke up one morning and was suddenly like, oh shoot, like stuff doesn't work, and entire websites just stopped working because this guy deleted one of these packages that he had made. And it was, the whole thing gets into like, oh, what does it mean to be a programmer? What does open source mean? What are the responsibilities of an open source platform host and stuff like that? There's a whole separate conversation that is not related to any of this, but it does kind of just, along with this CrowdStrike situation, sort of serve to remind you that you never really know exactly what weird little screw ups like this are going to utterly cripple our entire digital infrastructure. So that's
Seriously.
wild. Kind of reminded me of that. And I thought, wow, what good times. And then my other thing is, listener, you've probably thought it and you've probably said something about it, because I know I have. When you go and you read an article about how the United States Air Force is finally updating the computer systems that are inside of the nuclear silos to stop using floppy disks or whatever kind of thing. Or, you walk into a machine shop or something like that. You exist anywhere around the world of fabrication or manufacturing or something like that. You walk into the back corner of the shop and you see there's this one CNC something back there that is still being powered by like a Windows 95 computer or something like that. And you make fun of them. Like, oh my gosh, how are they so backwards? What a weird little relic of the past. They really need to update. This is so ridiculous and stupid and stuff like that. You know what wasn't affected by this, listener? All of that crap.
Those,
man. Like
that right there.
You walk into a machine shop and you see a computer powered by Windows 95. That is the most gosh darn reliable machine in that shop.
You're not joking. Like,
nobody has problems with that machine. You go talk to the owner. You go ask them, what would you say is just, hours in, like the machine you can count on to always work and do the job the way you want it to? And they'll be like, oh man, that old piece of crap right there.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, yes, digital, like advancements in technology bring us a lot of conveniences and a lot of improvements and stuff. And it's nice to have those. We should appreciate those, but let's stop crapping on the old stuff, because the old stuff doesn't do this.
Yeah.
As somebody that works in a machine shop, I can verify that is the case. Because, all the
Those
machines
old
that are
EDM machines you got.
all of our machines that are newer don't run Windows or anything like that, and they were
Oh, that's
fine.
good.
And all of our older machines that do run Windows 95, and they were perfectly fine.
There you go. Not a problem.
Ugh.
And like, it's not even like they're a big security risk because, listener, I don't know if you've ever tried to connect Windows 95 to the internet, but holy crap, is that ever a pain in the butt?
Yeah.
They're not connected to the internet. They don't have wireless communications on them at all. There's no way to hack these things or get data off of them. And even if you could, what are you going to get? You're going to get a few tool paths, and it's not going to,
Yeah.
like, it's not a cybersecurity risk. It's fine. Well, and that's the thing, everybody, it's like, oh my gosh, nuclear bunkers are still being powered by like archaic versions of Windows and floppy disks and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's called security by obscurity, man. How many people do you know that still have a floppy drive? Like you could get all of those floppy disks out of a nuclear bunker or nuclear silo, and you would have no way to do anything with it. It wouldn't give you anything.
Along those lines, how many people do you know still have a CD drive?
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
If you've bought
Let
a
alone
computer,
floppy
if
drive.
you've bought a computer in the last 10 years, it probably doesn't have a CD drive.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I would, you're probably thinking, yeah, surely you can get a USB connected external floppy drive, but I don't know that you can. Like, I know you can get USB connected external zip drives, but that's as far back as I think we go with that, because like the floppy disk and USB didn't really overlap much, if at all.
I'm sure there is something, but like
We
I
have
don't
those.
think
We do have those at my work. We don't.
Do you? Okay.
We don't use
Well,
them
fine.
anymore. All of our machines are now connected to the local network, but we did use them for a while.
Oh,
I
man.
I
Anyways,
remember that. Load the program.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
the point is, let's maybe just let these old machines kind of have their day in the limelight. Friday, July 19th. That was the 19th, right? On Friday, July 19th, 2024. Critical systems across the world shut down, except for the ones that were being powered by extremely archaic versions of Windows. And you know what? Like, yeah, you went to the ATM, you were still perfectly able to withdraw money out of that thing because that's running Windows XP, and it has been since like 2002. And turns out it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's true.
So, there you go. That's what was going on with CrowdStrike. Hopefully that cleared up any questions that you might have had about what caused it and where we're at now. It's pretty much past. If you are still affected by this, listener, your computer has probably already rebooted a whole bunch of times. And if it hasn't fixed itself by this point, call your IT man. Like, that's the only solution to this point. Because if you are in a situation where you have Falcon installed on your computer and you haven't already fixed it yourself, you don't have the ability to fix it, listener. That's this is a corporate situation. You need to get in contact with your IT department.
I did find it really funny at my work. They sent out an email company wide about how to fix this if you're affected. But at the same time, unless you could get on a computer to check your email, how are you I was like that. I mean, look, I was able to check my email to get this email. Like, one of the computers at work was working okay.
Funny.
But it's like most of the people that need this email are not going to receive it. So,
Oh, good times. Good times.
It's like someone with a dead battery in their car saying, "Yeah, pull up your car next to mine and I'll jump your car." Oh, friggin' A. Well, let's go ahead and move on from that. We got some little bit of first impressions of Apple stuff. We got iOS 18 beta.
Yeah, listener. So if you've listened to the podcast you've had to have been listening for a while, but you know that I always tell people you probably shouldn't install these beta programs, but I tend to still do that myself because I like
It's
chaos.
your
As I
thing,
say, not as I
guess.
do.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that being said, I only do this on my phone, which again, you probably shouldn't do that if you only have one phone, which I only have one phone, but I did wait on this update about a day and a half. I didn't install it right away like I usually do. I did wait a minute to get some reviews out there and let people say, okay, this is okay to run on your daily driver. And Apple's been really good the last few years with their public betas. They're usually okay out the door, but you never know for sure. So I actually did wait a little bit this time, but I did install it, and it's been, I guess, about a week, now that the public beta's been out or so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
And I wanted to give a few thoughts that I have on it. Overall, it's fine. And the beta is running mostly fine. I've only ran into a couple bugs, but it's mostly good. The only bugs that I've come across so far is I can't get like my screen time stats to show up. Like the widget is there, but it's not showing anything. It tells me to go into settings and turn it on. If I go into settings to do that, it just kicks me out of settings. It basically closes the app. So screen time appears to not be working quite properly at the moment on the public beta. Not a big deal, not a deal breaker by any means, just a minor inconvenience. And another one that's also a minor inconvenience to me is I went on a bike ride this morning, and normally I can start the workout on my watch, and if I put my phone, I've got a mount on my bike that I can put my phone up there, and it'll show me different stats right there on the screen. I can keep an eye on it as I'm going. It's very handy. Those did not show up on my phone. Now, I don't know if that's a bug inside of iOS 18 or the fact that my watch is not running the newest, latest version of watchOS. I don't think that's the case. I think it's probably just some sort of bug, but they weren't communicating in that way on my ride this morning. Again, not a big deal, just a minor inconvenience. Those are the only bugs that I've really noticed. So again, nothing critical by any means so far. Thoughts on some of the new things. I use my phone in dark mode exclusively all the time. And one of the big changes with that is they made all the icons, like a new version of dark mode icons. And I don't love the dark mode icons.
Oh.
Like, some of them look okay. Some of them don't. And it's not just Apple. Like some of the Apple ones look good. Some of the Apple ones don't look good. Some of the third-party app icons look okay, and most of them don't look okay because they haven't updated to make them look better. I really wish there was a way that I could go back to what it was before, at least in the app icon thing, because the rest of the dark mode stuff still looks fine. I actually like some of the newer stuff that they've done with that. It's just the app icons themselves I don't love. I'm getting used to them as I keep using it, but it's still like every time I go to open certain apps, I'm like, wait, where did that app go? Oh, there it is. It just looks a lot different now because it's the dark mode version.
Yep.
And I did find a way that I can use dark mode throughout the system, but set up my home screen and everything with the light mode icons. But the problem I have with that is it also turns the widgets that I have on my screen into the light mode widgets, and I don't love that. So I put up with the fact that with the dark mode icons that I don't love because I prefer the dark mode widgets that were there before. It's again, nothing major, and it's personal preference. But as of right now, it's not my favorite. Because I have the beta, they put the feedback app on your phone, and you can send feedback to Apple. This is probably going to be one of those, be like, hey, you should give us the option to go back to the way it was on dark mode. And like, just have the option available, I don't mind this option. It's just not great yet. And it might get better as developers update their app icons to, function more properly. Right now, it's just Apple's kind of forcing things onto them. And again, some of them look okay, some of them don't.
Well, right now it's just converting everything to like the monochrome tinted format thing, isn't it?
Well,
Or
kind of like that's a little different. That's the way you can like change the app icon to match your background.
right.
I
And is that not
definitely
what they're
don't love
doing
that.
Oh, you don't.
No,
Okay.
I tested that out. I didn't love it. Like you can pick the color, and I mean it's something that it's been talked about a lot of other places, but it's something that people on Android learned. You know, when Android was announced, because you could do that back then. You can make your icon your home screen as ugly as you want it to now on iOS, and people are proving that in lots of different ways because of doing this makes them ugly, in my opinion. There are very few cases where changing all of the app icons to a certain tint of color look good, but it's very, very few, and it's hard to find those because I haven't found any yet. So I just leave them the way they are. But the way that these dark mode icons work is it kind of changes the background of the icon dark, and so like a good example I can use is like the App Store icon. It's normally like blue icon with, where is it, a white icon with blue, the A is blue, I can't remember, but
the App Store icon,
yeah,
it's a blue background with a white A.
Okay, that's what I thought. This one has the blue A with a black background. It doesn't look bad.
Ooh.
But it's just different. The settings icon is, instead of gray, is black with like the gears are gray on it.
Yeah,
just different. And like before, some of these icons were a little bit darker just to go with the theme, but they weren't like full on black backgrounds. Like the Reminders app was like in light mode, it's white background with the, thing with the lines and stuff on it. In dark mode, it was like a gray color. Now it's black with the lines and different design on it. So it's just a little different. Like the Gmail app still has the little M on there with the Google colors, but the background is all black. Same with like YouTube and most apps. That's pretty much what they've just defaulted to, is just the background turned black and the logo has stayed the way it was.
Yeah.
Which, again, some of them work fine. Some of them don't work as well. And as developers update their app icons, then to work with this, they might look better. But right now, it's not my favorite on most of the app icons. Even first-party app icons, not the best. But it's fine. Not a big deal. The new Photos app is all right. It's a lot more like how Google Photos is set up. I still don't use it because I use Google Photos as my default Photos app. I did, however, there's one thing. I don't know if this was in the Photos app before, but it gave me wallpaper suggestions. If I scroll all the way to the very bottom, it gave me wallpaper suggestions in this new Photos app. And I actually liked one of the suggestions that it gave me, so I switched my wallpaper to that. So that was kind of handy.
Huh.
But in the time since then, it hasn't actually changed any of those suggestions. They've stayed the same. I wish it would kind of rotate through different suggestions. So if I wanted to change my wallpaper more often, I can.
Right.
But it didn't. It's kept the same, like 10 or so different wallpaper suggestions there over the past week. So I'm like, I found the one that was actually good in all those. So I'll keep it for now. But again, the new Photos app, it's fine. But I'm not going to use it because it's just, I have to go out of my way to use the Apple Photos app. So,
yeah.
Control Center. That was one of the other big things. So you can now customize a lot more inside of Control Center. And that includes where icons are, how big the different things are inside of it. And you can do a lot inside of Control Center now with customization. I've tweaked a few things around here and there. And the other thing is it adds different pages of controls. And by default, for me at least, it had like my regular Control Center when I swiped down was there. And then I'd swipe up and it had a big full screen media, like whatever was playing. If it was podcast or music, whatever, it had a full screen media thing there. And then one more swipe up, it had all of my connectivity controls, like my airplane mode, AirDrop, Wi-Fi, cellular data, like all that sort of stuff. Just a full screen of that.
Right.
I have switched away so I've got my main page is just what it was before. And then I swipe up one to all the connectivity stuff so I can more easily access individual ones. But I also am not a huge fan of the different pages because just the way I use my phone, if I swipe down to the control center, previously I could just swipe up from anywhere on the screen and it would go back home. Whereas now if I swipe up from anywhere on the screen, it goes to that second page. And then I have to swipe up from the very bottom to go all the way home. Not a big deal. Something you have to get used to. But
Yeah.
I'm still just not in the habit of doing that yet. So when I want to go home, it's just swipes to the second page. I'm like, oh crap. So I have to do it again.
Right.
So I'm debating if I want to just get rid of that second page altogether because it's just a minor annoyance. I've kept it for now, but it might be going away. But the option is there if you want, and you can do like multiple pages. Like again, it had 3 initially. I could probably add a 4th one or a 5th one if I really wanted to. I don't know why anybody would want to, but you could. And like I said, you can customize. They have a ton of different quick like setting type things inside of Control Center that you can pick from. And it was kind of a lot to go through. Just, okay, what do I actually want? Where do I want it? What makes the most sense? And sizing everything was different, but it was fine. You could go crazy and make it insane if you really want to. I don't think you should, again, but you have the ability to do that now.
But you can.
Yes.
You can ruin everything if you want.
Yeah, and speaking of can ruin everything if you want, you can now put all of your app icons where you want on the page, as long as it's still within that grid. I mean that's the same on Android. You can't just put one in the middle of the page, and not inside of where the grid is. It still is in a relatively uniform location, but you can now move things around so you can have like a U shape of icons or something like that, or just a full circle and showcase something in the middle of your wallpaper if you want. I haven't done any of that yet because, once again, I'm just kind of used to where things are. Like I set everything up how I like it. I might move things around here and there once in a while, but for now it's fine where it's at. But you can do that now. RCS support is on the iPhone now, and I tested it out today. I was texting my brother who has a Pixel phone, and as I sent stuff to him, I could see that, he actually read it. That's kind of fun. And then when he started texting me back, it has a little 3 dots saying that they're typing something. It was really nice. So it does work. It is a nice feature. I'm glad that that's there. I can't remember if I had to go in and turn it on or if it was just on by default. But if it's not on by default, it's not hard to find inside of settings. You just go toggle it on. But RCS does work on the iPhone. Thank you, Apple. Finally.
It works.
And then the last little thing I wanted to mention, this is not going to affect anybody. It's just a little Easter egg that I found, and I did put a little video of this in our Slack channel. But when you hit the volume buttons now, it sort of presses the screen in. It's really interesting. I don't know exactly why. Okay, I actually have a theory of why they did this. And I think, or my question was, are they preparing for non-physical buttons on the iPhone? That was my very first thought. I'm like, wait, why are that could be why. Because then it gives you, their non-physical buttons have always had some sort of haptic feedback anyways, but this gives you also a little bit of a visual feedback along with that haptic feedback. So that was my first thought. I'm like, are there going to be non-physical volume buttons on the next iPhone? Because that's been rumored for a while. It's only a matter of time before it happens, I think. But that's potentially why this is there. I haven't seen this mentioned anywhere about this little feature. At least, again, not in where I've looked, and people I follow, they haven't mentioned it. But it's just kind of a fun little Easter egg type thing. It's just right out there in the open, actually. But it's not something, unless you're kind of paying attention, you're not really going to notice.
I think you're absolutely right that this is in preparation. This is just a piece of visual feedback to go along with the Taptic engine click for when you push the buttons. I am weird in this, in that I would much rather have a physical switch for the mute switch instead of their stupid little action button.
Yes.
I would much rather have physical buttons for like the actual, volume and power buttons and stuff on the phone. But I am totally A-okay with a laptop that has a glass surface for the keyboard. And I know that makes me weird. Like, I get that, listener. But I am not I feel like I would constantly be like blindly reaching for the volume buttons and then going the wrong direction because I'm like a little too high or a little too low or something like that.
I can see that.
I mean, I would imagine that they still have some sort of, like, just because the button doesn't actually press into the phone, there probably is going to be, like, the home button didn't press into the phone, but there was a physical indicator of where you were pushing.
There'd have to be some kind of indexing in order to make it, like, work at all. But I'm just concerned because the rumors are that this year they're going to replace the volume buttons on the phones with a rocker switch so that it's a continuous rocker instead of, two separate buttons. And then if they follow up that by having a flat, like, just press surface that is lightly recessed into the side of the phone, then it's going to be continuous.
Yeah.
And the only way that I get behind that is if they make it swipe enabled instead of just button presses, so that you can just kind of swipe your finger along this thing in order to change the volume up and down, because I can do that blindly as well. It just got to go up, just got to go down, something like that. That's fine. I can work with that. But I have concerns. This could go very badly for my personal taste, at least.
I mean, it's just another thing that Android learned not to do a long time ago, having a single physical button. Because there are Android phones back in the day that had a one button volume rocker that did that, and then they've pretty much all gone back to two buttons because it just
in fact
makes
I
more
have
sense.
one of them sitting on my desk right now. That's
right there.
Yeah, turns out I hate it. So
yeah. But those are my first impressions so far on iOS 18. It's fine. I mean, it's not a massive upgrade in most sense of the word. And the AI stuff, one, is not going to be coming to my phone because I have an iPhone 13 and it's coming to the 15 Pro and newer. So I'm not going to be getting that. And two, that's not even coming to those phones until sometime in 2025. So the AI stuff isn't a big deal yet, and I don't think really will be when it actually comes out. So, yeah.
Probably not.
The overall update, though, isn't huge, and that's fine. Just minor tweaks here and there to make your phone either uglier or just more your own style, I suppose, which could also be uglier. Who knows?
Yeah, fair. I feel very seen by that statement.
Awesome. Well, anything else you have on that you wanted to mention?
Nope.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and let's move on to some Google news here. Google shows off the Pixel 9 Pro and 9 Pro Fold.
Yeah, so listener, as is usual with Google, they can't just wait till their event to show their devices. They have to show you sometime in advance. The past couple of years, it's actually been like months in advance where they'll show the new devices off in some sort of teaser video and then actually give details at the event. But this one is not months in advance. It's about a month in advance. Well, a couple weeks, because their Pixel event is going to be in August. So, we're not as far out as we have been in the past. But we now know the name of the Fold, unfortunately, is going to be the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which that's awful. Yeah.
This is the darkest timeline.
It's awful. And then the 9 Pro, they're just showing off the new design basically of these phones. Not a whole lot has changed between the different phones. The biggest thing I think with the Pro Fold is the cameras are a little bit different. I think I'm trying to remember what the previous Fold was. I don't think it was this little square cutout, but it's more similar
don't
to an
think it was
iPhone
either.
style camera cutout, but like a pixelated. Oh, that's definitely not the right term, but better, pixel version, a Googleified version of the iPhone cutout. Let's say that. And then the camera bar on the Pixel 9 is kind of combining the Pixel oh my gosh, I hate these names. The Fold and the regular phone, kind of combining those two.
Makes it look like Bender from Futurama there.
It
I'm
really,
looking at here.
It really does.
I kind of want a case that I can make it gray and get something like make it look like a little more like Bender. But I just looked at it and it's on their Google store here, and I'm like, wow, it looks like Bender for some reason. Just how it's like out, and it does.
Side note along those lines, I remember when Samsung first came out with it wasn't a hole punch camera, but it was kind of a hole punch, but it was like a double camera thing. And people made wallpapers to go along with that. And they made one with Bender. So his eyes matched up perfectly. It was great. Fantastic.
Yep, I remember that too.
So I would not be surprised if down the road there is a case for this phone that is Bender. You never, I'm sure it'll happen. Someone's going to make it. If not, we should try to make something like that. That'd be kind of fun. But they put these phones out in a little teaser video, just showcasing some of the hardware. They're not talking about any of the specs, obviously, yet, but they're just showing off the new design language. It's very similar to what they've been in the past. A little more sharp edges, I guess, more similar to how the iPhone and Samsung are this year and years past, which is fine. Yeah. They all look good. I'm not against the way these phones look. But yeah, so if you want to get a idea of what they look like, you can, like Wes just said, go to the Google Store website. You can see these phones in all their glory. Just no spec details yet. If you want to find those, you got to go to the Android, websites that are the news websites, because they have all the information, because again, Google can't keep anything in house anymore. It all gets leaked.
It's true. More news on that on the 13th of August, did we say?
I believe so, yes.
I think it's the 13th of August. Of course, it's the day after we normally record, so...
That's how it always works.
Always.
We schedule it that way on purpose, listener, because we hate ourselves.
I have noticed, like, most companies, it's always Tuesday when they've released something or something happens, or it's always a Tuesday, so it is us.
I mean, the reason they do that is because they don't want to come in out of the weekend with, boom, an event. They got to have at least one day to kind of get themselves back into the swing of things and then have an event. But yes, it is unfortunate for us. The one benefit, though, I have found is generally we are able to get more information about these devices before we talk about them. Like the Samsung one is a really good example, because initially everyone thought all of these accessories only worked with Samsung devices. Like the watches only worked with Samsung phones. Not the earbuds, but the Ring only worked with Samsung phones. But as the week went on, we found out that was not the case, so we could actually report that was the case. I mean, most of the time we don't get news like that, but it is beneficial to have a few days out to get all the information.
It's true.
Yeah. Essentially, we have a little bit more data, slightly more fully formed opinions.
Yeah.
And, that's...
At least that's what we tell ourselves.
we're trying to find the bright side of this.
We have all the info.
Timeliness. Nobody cares about that. Listener, if you wanted timeliness, then man, have you seen our YouTube channel?
Wow, even he's picking on himself.
It's the opposite of timely. I'm like, finally playing Diablo 4. Like, actually, maybe I'll review it. It's been out.
Wow, I didn't even know that. Crazy. Good job.
Yeah, I know. I'm
gonna play it before your Game Pass runs out.
That's the idea.
Yep. Figured. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. We're gonna go into some gaming news. Listener, this next bit is amazing,
incredible.
This is the best news out of this week by far.
It really is. So, all right. There's a movie coming out, which you may not know is called Deadpool. It's also Deadpool and Wolverine. They decided to do a collaboration with Xbox, and they made themselves their own Xbox controller. And on here, we're just going to say it's something else. Well, it's not only a controller. They did a skin as well for their Xbox, and their Xbox is doing a sweepstake, and they call it "Make His Finest Asset Yours." So what are we laughing about? Why are we being so cheeky about this? Come on, let that one set in. There it goes. There it goes.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. I better stop while I'm ahead there.
Or you can't get more behind.
Oh, it's true. It's true. So, listener, they decided to come out with a skin for not only the Xbox Series X that shows Deadpool, shows his swords, his katanas on the back to make it look like it's Deadpool. They also did a skin for the controller, which looks really nice. It looks like Deadpool's it's got its little belts on the sides, everything to make it look kind of cool. But then you turn it around and it's his butt. His finest asset right there.
It's his butt.
On the back side of the controller, they got two bum cheeks there. That's which is really, it's funny because a lot of people were wondering, well, that's where the battery goes. So can you take the bum cheeks off? Yes, you can. You can take the bum cheeks off to replace the battery if you want to. But who wants to do that? Anyway, so what they did is they did this collaboration for basically just a sweepstakes. It's just kind of a one and done thing. They said to get a chance at get this Deadpool design controller, you'll need to follow Xbox on Twitter or X and repost the following sweepstakes post. Basically, just repost what Xbox had put out, and you'll have a chance to get this. Now, it does say it's a global sweepstakes available for everyone aged 18 plus. On there with the design for both the control. They call it the Deadpool Xbox Series X console with two cheeky controllers. So not just one, two.
Oh man.
It's not one you can buy, which I think they would make over $1 billion in just Xbox controllers alone. But,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's just for a sweepstakes. So it's pretty funny, listener. You ought to just hop on there and just type in the Xbox cheeky controller. I'm sure it'll come up. Maybe, I'm going to throw this out there. Go ahead and put your safe search on just because it's the internet. Because you never know what would be added to that.
Yeah, just type in Xbox and Deadpool. You'll find it.
Yeah, something will happen. So
that's all I typed in, and it came up. Also, there is a Wolverine version of this as well.
Which is interesting because I didn't see the Wolverine one until Landon looked it up right before he was recording the podcast. So yeah, there is a Wolverine one.
Yep.
They were saying on there. So okay, anyone else have any other cheeky things they want to say?
Well, I will just say that, listener, if you have seen the first two Deadpool movies, you kind of understand that Deadpool as a character in these movies is just Ryan Reynolds. And this whole advertising push, this collaboration, all of the interviews that he's done leading up to this, I can't see how this movie could possibly be bad. Like, everybody is so on point with how they are talking about advertising, treating this whole thing. And I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be one for the ages.
Yeah. I think so. I think it'll be pretty decent.
Oh, man. So. Good times.
Okay. Let's go ahead and we're going to move on here. We're going to talk about Microsoft and Nvidia Geforce Now. So I think it was last week, or the week before, we talked about how Geforce Now and Xbox are kind of getting together to where you can start streaming on your Xbox as well as now on Xbox.com, you can stream cloud games now using Geforce Now from Xbox.com and your Xbox to be able to do that. So they just came out and said that you can now do that. Before it was just on the Xbox. Now it's just Xbox.com. If you want to check it out, you can, instead of doing just I continuously call it xCloud, but Microsoft says Microsoft Cloud Gaming. I will continue to use xCloud.
Microsoft is wrong. It's xCloud.
I will continue to use xCloud. So you can either use xCloud or
be wrong.
And Nvidia Geforce Now on there. So if you're interested in this, I've heard a lot of hype. A lot of people think this is really cool. When I've tried to look up cloud gaming, so I'm not one that does the cloud gaming. I mean, me, it's just kind of like, hey, I want to look at. It's more of a toy for me, really. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I can do this. Cool. Yeah. And then but when I've looked some people up are talking when they're like, oh, I actually use a lot of Nvidia GeForce Now, or I use, xCloud or whatever. A lot of people have been liking this, and I apparently marrying these two together. There's a lot of hype for it. So I think, which is cool.
Yep.
So, all right, the next thing, which I don't. So the FTC is back. They're trying to make a stink about. Well, we'll say, quote unquote, calls out Microsoft for recent Game Pass changes.
They're mad about the price hike too.
Well,
aren't we all?
I wish. So this is, I don't know. I feel like we've talked about this, but I wish the people in the FTC were people that understood the gaming world before they go out and try to say, well, see, this went up, so you're bad. You know what? I don't know. I feel so. Listener, they're going after Microsoft because they laid off a lot of people, and they said you laid off. So we told you the quote. I can't remember the exact quote. But they said we told you because now you have Call of Duty. So they said Call of Duty, not Activision Blizzard. They said because you have Call of Duty, you now have market power to fire people, get rid of all these people, and you just raise your prices because of Call of Duty and make a worse Game Pass tier. Or made Game Pass worse. What they didn't understand was that if you already are on the tier that you have, you get to keep the tier that is no longer available for new customers. And what they didn't understand also is the new tier of the standard, I believe is what it was called, that's not getting day one releases, is the one that's the standard tier, but you do get the multiplayer. Yes, it's paying for multiplayer. So Microsoft just kind of put those two together, and so it's what it costs. But
yeah, I think that in general, the FTC's entire purpose is to sort of protect consumers from giant corporations. And so them being annoyed with a giant corporation for raising prices and firing people is that's on point. That's their job. That's what they're there for. And when they didn't really approve the merger between Activision Blizzard and Microsoft. They just kind of didn't disapprove it, they weren't really happy with the whole situation. And so then for Microsoft to go through with a bunch of layoffs that Activision had already planned at that point is yeah, okay, that's kind of scummy. And then after all of that, it's all the whole year and a half that Microsoft was trying to argue with the FTC in favor of this merger, they're talking about, look, this is going to benefit consumers. We can make this Game Pass thing so much better, yada, yada, yada. And then they're all like, hey, by the way, we're raising prices and changing the tiers and everything like that. I can see the FTC being like, are you kidding? This merger didn't even go through 6 months ago. What are you doing? So I get it from that perspective. My thing is hey, FTC, how about don't call them out? How about do something about it?
Yeah.
put some rules in place that kind of bracket stuff like this. Like maybe I don't know. Can we also get mad about the fact that Microsoft just freaking closed down 4 studios, several of which had released like giant hit games, or well, giant hits, maybe not, but critically acclaimed indie games like over the past couple of years, and others of which were responsible for, some of the best franchise games that we've had, like stuff like Dishonored and that kind of thing. Yeah. They're just like shutting these studios down, killing the development teams and all that stuff. And it's like, I feel like there's plenty to be upset with Microsoft for. So the FTC calling them out, I'm like, okay, yeah, that tracks. I'm not annoyed with that. I am slightly annoyed that they're not doing more to kind of guide and legislate the industry as a whole. Like, I understand that you don't want them to do too much because then the industry becomes extremely stagnant, but also the whole purpose of the FTC is to prevent, monopolies, antitrust. That's kind of their entire domain, and they're not doing anything about Microsoft potentially positioning themselves to form a monopoly. I don't know.
Didn't a bunch of other places raise their prices though on that too, and they just haven't said anything?
Everybody's been raising their prices over the past year. Like, that's the price raising isn't the surprising part. I think the thing that the FTC is upset with mostly is that it happened so close on the heels of this giant antitrust investigation that happened, and that they Xbox repeatedly assured the FTC that no, we're not going to be jacking up our prices as soon as we go through with this merger, because we're trying to, do what's right for the consumers, and we're just about providing more value to them. This isn't going to cause us to raise our prices and all this stuff. And then it's been 6 months since the merger, and they've fired a whole bunch of people and raised prices. That's why they're specifically talking about Microsoft in this instance, is because of the speculation, or because of the attention that they already had from the Activision Blizzard merger. So I
feel like people don't, I don't know, because you don't have to have Game Pass to play these games.
Nope.
So you could just buy. So, for example, you could just buy Diablo. Just play it. And
no.
I know you're not going to, but you get my point.
Decent, but it's not that good.
but you get my point. Or I hope you get it. I don't know. It's not that it's not gatekeeping anybody. You can still just go pay your $70 and buy Call of Duty or buy whatever, and then just play your game. And
over
not
the past,
I don't know.
Over the past few months, we've had a whole host of really interesting things happen in the gaming sphere, particularly surrounding multiplayer gaming, with live service games that launched and absolutely bombed because they were crap. But on the flip side, live service games like Helldivers that launched and everyone was like, well, this is the best thing ever, and that kind of thing. Alongside situations like Ubisoft, of all people, launching a very compelling COD homage. We'll be charitable and say that it pays homage to Call of Duty and not that it is a clone of Call of Duty. But yeah, X-Defiant is like, hey, this is called multiplayer. This is what everybody downloads Call of Duty for, and it's free and virtually identical. Who wants to play? Oh, it turns out everybody wants to play, and stuff like that. So, the gaming space kind of has been making its own traction toward pulling away from monopolization, which is great. That's awesome. Gamers are becoming more informed about how their purchasing changes the power dynamics inside of the gaming space when they're doing it in large volumes. And that is very nice. However, nobody's going to argue with the fact that Game Pass represents an incredible value, particularly for the social aspect of game playing, right? And I think that the FTC is slightly concerned, possibly, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence, but maybe rightly so, about Microsoft leveraging the social element of game releases to sort of force people into Game Pass, first of all, and then into paying more for Game Pass. Because the more people they can get on that bandwagon, the more people are going to feel like they have to be there in order to play the games they want without breaking the bank because their friends are playing them, or because that's where the zeitgeist online is at any given moment. And that's sort of how Microsoft has been operating when it comes to some of the decisions they've been making regarding from everything from advertising to how they're positioning their price tiers and stuff like that. It all kind of plays into that narrative a little bit, but it remains to be seen whether or not the gamers are going to put up with that. And generally speaking, I don't know. I don't know if it's actually a problem, because I suspect that mostly gamers are going to be like, I mean, yeah, it's cheaper to pay for Game Pass than it is to buy a new game every month, but I don't buy a new game every month. I buy like one game a year and then play the crap out of it with my close friends or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cheaper than paying for Game Pass every month. So I don't know. There's a lot of discussion around this, and I don't have any particular grief with the FTC for the statements that they've made and the investigation, like ongoing antitrust investigations that they have leveraged against Microsoft and a dozen other companies just in the gaming sphere. So I don't necessarily see that as a problem. I am interested to see how the market shakes out, because there has been a lot of turmoil in the game development sphere over the past year, and I'm interested to see what the market does, regardless of what the FTC is doing or saying or thinks, because let's be honest, they don't do much.
Which
they say plenty.
Is sad, yeah. Like, no, I get you. I guess I was looking at it like, maybe look at it as the gaming as whole, like you were saying, like yeah, we should always be at companies like, hey, you can't do this, and like you were saying, maybe they could have put guidelines in, like, hey, you can't raise your Game Pass prices to us this point for 5 years or whatever. I don't even know if they can do that. I assume I don't know, but
I mean,
I don't know.
They probably do to some extent, but I don't know how much.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there should be more to the dislike of it, I guess. Like yeah, but you do know that there's these other ways of avenues of getting, like even GOG.com, like you just buy games there. You can buy elsewhere. You don't have to.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, there is the concern of Xbox gamers. Like, they can't go to Steam, they can't go to GOG, they can't get stuff off the Humble Bundle, they can't be shopping on the Epic Game Store or anything like that. They got to get their crap from Microsoft. That's their only real option. And yeah, I can see how the FTC would be concerned about that demographic specifically. That being said, they are a much smaller demographic than PlayStation gamers, and PlayStation gamers and Nintendo gamers are in the same boat as Xbox gamers. So is this just because Microsoft is a US-based company? Maybe that's why the FTC cares more about them, because they can actually do something about Microsoft. They might not be able to leverage the same kind of influence over Sony and Nintendo.
Well, you have a point. That's very possible.
I don't know. This is where my knowledge, like, this strays away from technical understanding and insight on the gaming industry as a whole into, hey, this is how, like, governments are organized and politics work and stuff like that. And that is a bit outside of my area of expertise, listeners. So maybe I should shut up while I'm ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we should be quiet about extending that conversation. Anyway, so the FTC, who knows what they'll do with it. Anyway, moving on from that. So the Halo TV series, I don't think any of us have watched it.
Nope.
Oh, it's my favorite TV show ever. I love Halo and everything.
The non-gamer over here.
This is coming from the person that's never actually played Halo.
Do you even have like a Paramount Plus subscription? Like,
I do have access to Paramount Plus, yes.
do you? Oh, okay.
I as well do too, actually.
Oh, see, I don't, which is really funny because I'm the Trekkie. What the heck? That's weird.
Wait, isn't Trek on CBS?
That's
that Paramount?
Yeah.
That's Paramount, yeah. Paramount CBS there.
Oh, that's right. They're
The
combined.
same
Yeah,
these days.
okay. And Showtime. Yeah.
Again, proof that the FTC doesn't do their job.
Exactly. 100%.
There we go. Exactly.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Basically, if it's not owned by CBS or NBC, it is owned by
Disney.
a stream. Yeah, Disney. Actually, you're right.
Disney.
I was gonna say it's all like the new Netflix, Apple people, but no, that's true. It's Comcast, Disney, and what's
Paramount.
the parent company of CBS and Paramount?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. What it's
Viacom?
called.
No.
But it might be.
Maybe.
Is it Viacom?
I don't know.
It might be
That might
Viacom
it.
because Paramount's got a lot of Nickelodeon stuff, and I know
Yeah.
Nickelodeon's.
Yeah, it might be Viacom. But yeah, they kind of control basically all entertainment in the world.
Right there. Anywho, so after being told, I can't remember. So we talked about the Skydance is buying shares of Paramount for Paramount streaming service, so they're going to own a lot of Paramount, which then they are looking at chopping some TV shows, and it looks like Halo TV series. They decided to cancel it after 2 seasons.
I mean, I haven't heard a single person say anything particularly positive about the show, so can't say I'm surprised. Like, the gamers didn't like it. The TV critics didn't like it. TV fans didn't watch it.
I heard the people that actually liked it were people that never played Halo or know of Halo. Is what I heard.
I mean, I know plenty of people who watched at least parts of the first season who have never played Halo, and were all like, this is not good TV. So they didn't watch. I will say I did watch a couple of scenes, which I'm just going to go ahead and say they probably should have just let the 343 Industries cinematics team take over the CG for the fight sequences in the first season of that show, because some of it was pretty lousy. It was just like, nah, man, let's just let some Halo 5 cinematics happen in this space instead, because those were better.
Yeah, so those of you that are fans or even care, Halo TV series has been canceled.
But that's okay. Fallout still going strong.
Yes, and
renewed for a second season.
That the second season's coming along faster than they thought. So I don't know if that means anything, but there you go. Probably because it made money.
Yeah, that helps.
So, all right. And that looks like that's the end of the gaming news there. I think that's the end of the episode, unless Landon, do you have one more thing for us?
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, listener, we appreciate you listening. Listen to us on this episode here. If you want to, you can get a hold of us. If you want us to talk about something or have a question or want to make fun of Caleb for not putting anything up on the YouTube channel, you can get a hold of us.
I know.
You can get a hold of us. Or recommend something for him to review, or a game, or something.
Sure.
Like.
Yeah, you can do that.
You can recommend it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I might do it. It's not impossible.
This game came out 10 years ago, and I'm finally getting to the review. Just kidding. All right. You can get a hold of us on our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. Check out that YouTube channel. Maybe keep hitting likes and put on comments on there to say, need more content, Caleb. All right, dear listener. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.